its full extent, but I've heard bits and pieces. And all these stories are not just so people can say and look, stand up here and look, like Mary giving her testimony here, and it's not so we can get up here and say, hey, look at us. These are stories of God's incredible grace through the lives of His people. And this is his personal story, and Burt is putting himself out there and sharing this with you, so please pay attention and please give him your full attention. So.
Well, if you don't know, my name is Burt Draffen, and the story I'm about to tell you tonight is nothing about me, but I'm going to tell you what an amazing God that I serve. That He can take you from one spot of your life to the next, and you know that sometimes as we journey through life, we feel like there's no hope, there's no end to the disaster that we got ourselves into. But I'm a walking testimony of what God can do with a man's life and what He's done in my life. It was absolutely amazing. Growing up was a challenge for me. I grew up in poverty. My parents were poor. They were separated. My mother was an alcoholic. And there's a few scriptures that I was going over in the book of Genesis. And in Genesis, Abram and Sarah, when they went into Egypt, Abram had told a lie to him and said, "This is my wife, or this is my sister," so that they wouldn't kill him. Well, I've noticed that as I was reading through Genesis, Isaac did the same thing. He was following the footsteps of his father. He actually told that when he went into a town that his wife was his sister. And it was coming to the same lie. So, as we grow up, we try to grasp the things that our parents is teaching us and our parents is showing us. And this is exactly what happened to me in my life. And so, whenever I was growing up with my father, we was pretty poor. Traveling around, going from house to house, and living from Paducah to California. It was quite challenging. There's times quite challenged. There was times whenever I was hungry, I didn't have food, didn't have hardly any meat or any clothes, anything like this. So if you start painting this picture, you can start seeing the reality of how would I believe in such a God that people talks about. Okay, because that's the reality. When people would come to me, on the streets and stuff and talk to me about Jesus, or not, I won't say on the streets, when people try to mention the words Jesus or into a religious conversation, I will reject the conversation because there's no possible way there could be a God because of what I went through in my life. I felt like that my life was just such a horrible mess, and how could something so loving and so caring that could be around and leave me where I was at? I couldn't understand that concept. So, as I was journeying through life, I had my father. He was a good man. He was challenged with 3 boys, trying to raise them, take care of them. It was pretty hard on him. He ended up going to live with my mother. My mother was an alcoholic by the grace of God. She doesn't drink anymore. She's got 21 years sober. I just don't want to throw her under the bus like that. But living in an alcoholic home, you start to do things, that your parents are showing you, like in Genesis, Abram, then his son Isaac was following in the footsteps, of the lie that was being told. And so what happened was I fell into, at the age of 10 years old, I took my first drink of alcohol. And at that point, I was at a party. The babysitter was supposed to be watching me. And what was going on there was that I was wanting to be like my mom. I thought this was a fun thing to do. This is the way life was. I blacked out the first time I drank and ended up throwing up, and it was pretty horrible. And so as I was going through life at the age of 13, I went to my first rehab. And at the age of 13 in my first rehab, it really wasn't that I was trying to get sober, trying to get away from the things I was doing, because at that age, the party lifestyle was just a thing to do. It was just like everybody was doing it, so it was just a fun activity to me. I was participating in things, but my older brother had actually went into rehab, and so I was kind of wanting to follow into his footsteps a little bit, because that was my older brother. I cared a lot about him. So I ended up going into the rehab facility at age 13, which ended up breaking out and doing stuff, and ended up going back and stuff like that. So it really didn't help me too much, but kind of gave me a concept of what other drugs was out there. And so I used it as a resource. By the age of 16 years old, I had got a woman pregnant, ended up losing a child. It was stillborn. Well, I'm not going to say stillborn. The child was born, but it was born because of defectiveness of drugs and alcohol. It was damaging to the child. Okay, so what happened was when the child was born, it lived for like 2 or 3 days and then died. I never got to meet the child, you know, any of that, and that was at the age of 16 years old. So at the age of 17, 18, I was just trying to figure out a way in life, so I ended up going to a place called Job Corps, and I thought, well, this is the way, this is where I'm going to be at, you know. And well, this is before the child was born. Thought, man, I've got to do something, because I didn't know how to be a father, didn't know what I was going to do, so I ended up going to Job Corps. Well, I was in Job Corps, the child died, and that's when the stillborn or 2 or 3 day old child was born. So what happened after that was I got out of Job Corps, got back out on the street, and I started doing the same old stuff. You know, I didn't know how to get away from the things I was doing, so at the age of 18, my son was born, and when he was born, I was facing 13 counts of first-degree forgery. At this time, I had already been caught for grand theft auto, second-degree burglary, I believe was, I've already got that, 13 counts of first-degree forgery. Okay, so I was into a lot of stuff, doing a lot of things, you know, so I get sent off to boys camp, and I'm thinking, man, you know, when I get out, I'm going to do things right, I got this, I'm going to get this, man, I'm going to take this life, you know, by the horns, and I'm just going to go for it. So when I get out, I caught myself in the life that I was living, and eventually I started fading back away to what I knew best and to what I was shown, and that was the party life. It started destroying me a little bit further. It took me a little bit deeper, and it's what it does to most people. You know, I've got friends and stuff that still stay there, and man, I was sitting over here and I was thinking about them, and it just breaks my heart to know that they're still in the same situation that I was in. But I do know something. I do know there's something greater that can pull them out of it, more powerful than any drug or any alcohol there is. His name is Jesus. The reason I know that is He did it for me. Amen. So, at the age of 18, you know, my son was born, and I come out, and I'm trying to, you know, just really get this life thing. You know, I really want it, you know. But at this point, I never really was shown. I ask people all the time, who showed you how to be a father? Who showed you how to be a good husband? Who showed you these things? I didn't have these realities in my life. You know, this wasn't something that was shown to me. So the only thing I knew to grasp to is what I can visually see for myself, and the surroundings that I was in. The surroundings when I was in was the people that I was hung out with. So they was showing me how to live life, and unfortunately the people I was around, they was in the same boat I was. So it was my real reality. And so when you get into a real reality like that, and it's really not what life is actually all about, but you think it's what's real. And so I'm living this life, and I couldn't understand why these people over here wasn't doing what I was doing. How come their lives are better than mine? You know, like a little jealousy thing going on. How come then all of a sudden these people started judging me for what I was doing? If you ever wonder what the war tattoo on my neck is for, and that's what that's for. That's the reason why I got that tattoo on my neck, because I waged war against people, because people couldn't understand me, because they never walked in my shoes, but they was quick to judge me. You know, they was always out there, they was always pointing fingers, they was always doing this, you know, because I mean at one point I was pretty bad. I got pretty bad off. And that's the reason for the tattoo of the war. There's reasons and meanings behind the tattoos that I got. I'm not trying to promote tattoos, believe me. I'm not going to do that. That's between you and God. Whatever you and God deal with, where you work out, that's between y'all. Because I do not promote that whatsoever. So, we got it now. So, sorry for the ones that didn't hear me. But anyways, so after my son was born, I wanted to do things right and ended up falling back in the same stuff. And when I got into the same stuff, you know, I was trying to think, well, this is going to work out this time, and apparently it didn't. You know, I ended up moving away from her. We ended up separating. So now my son's out there without a father, same situation I was in when I was growing up. I was out there doing more drugs and alcohol. By this time, I was, 18. I've already was introduced to methamphetamines, marijuana, pills, you know, anything and everything that you could probably take. the feel good, you know, and I'm probably pretty sure a lot of high school kids here or school kids, whatever, people's going to introduce these things to you. I guarantee you they're going to try to promote these things to you. And let me tell you, it's the lie from Satan is exactly what it is. And if you do not believe that darkness lurks around you every day, I've been in the darkness. I know evil. I've danced with the devil, and the devil is real. You know, I know sometimes that we come to church and we hear about Jesus, you know, and believe me, that's a great thing, but you need to know the reality of what you're going against. You know, the Bible says that we are in a spiritual war, and that reality tells me that when I was out there in the midst of everything, that I was doing what the devil was wanting me to do. You know, I was walking with him. I was with him, you know, but he wasn't trying to look out for my interest. He was trying to destroy me is what he's trying to do. So he put up these little obstacles in my life to let me grab a hold to. The obstacles was drugs, money, women, whatever it was. He put these obstacles in my life to try to destroy me, to try to deter me from what was real. At the age of, I believe, 20-something years old, I met a woman that had 2 more girls. And ended up getting married. It was through my first wife, and had 2 girls. And this is where my drugs and alcohol escalated. When she was in a relationship with me, she knew what was going on, she knew what was happening, and after a while I told her she could never change me. This is who I am. I'm not going to change for anybody. Well, we had 2 girls, and she wanted to do the family thing, and I didn't. And so there was an ultimatum made, either drugs, and this is how powerful, I want you to see how powerful that what drugs can do to people, because when we first do drugs and we do that, we don't really see the power of it. But eventually later in life, it grabs a hold of you like nothing else. There's a reason why I told you that, okay? So grasp a hold of that. So she gave me an ultimatum. The ultimatum was family or drugs. So the unfortunate thing was I chose drugs. I left the house, ended up going to Paducah, moving in with my mother. And while I was in Paducah living with my mother, ended up having a couple more kids. I've got a little girl that because of my disruptance of life and the way I was living, she is, y'all probably met her, little Summer Rain. She's a character. My other little girl named, she is a character. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. You know, she was, there was a point when we had an option of having an abortion or doing drugs when she was conceived between me and the mother, and we chose to get high, and she was born. And that was probably one of the greatest decisions that I felt like that I made, because man, she's absolutely an amazing little girl. I'm not saying anything great about drugs, believe me, I'm not. So, as I had these girls, man, you know, you got 4 or 5 kids out there, and so it starts weighing down on you, because, you know, you need to start taking responsibility for what you've got out there now. And apparently I wasn't doing any of this whatsoever, because I didn't know how. I just wanted to keep doing what I was doing. I was thinking about me, myself. I was thinking about nothing else. And really, you know, as you start living that life, it becomes normal to you, or normal way of living. But I knew that what Satan was trying to do was he's trying to destroy me. He had me in situations to where the unworthiness, you're not worth nothing, you're never going to be nothing. You know, he makes you feel that way, because once he takes you down them roads, this is where you're going to end up. This is what he's going to say to you. This is what he's going to do to you. He wants you destroyed. He wants you with him, because he knows, if you read the book of Revelations, he knows where he's going. You know, it's going to be an end for him forever, and that's what he wants for you. You know, this shirt here, most people don't understand why I wear American Fighter shirt, okay? And the reason why I wear these shirts is because it's kind of like we're fighting for souls, you know. The devil's trying to pull one way, you know, and we're out here, you know, cheering, preaching the gospel or giving the gospel to people so they can have another way. You know, put your faith in something that's is life changing, that means more to life than anything. I mean, this is the real deal. And Satan's over here. He's trying to pull you this way with all these obstacles and stuff like that. So, anyways, back to the story. Okay? Don't get them. Back to the story. So anyways, I found myself in a very, very bad and dark situation. I was highly addicted to methamphetamines. At this time, I was an IV drug user. If you in the drug world, you kind of know, I mean, that's just the rock bottom place that you go to. And so when I was in that rock bottom place, I didn't think there was any way out. I didn't think that there was any opportunity for life for me. This is just the way life was. This is the way it's going to be for me for the rest of my life. There's nothing ever going to change this, you know. And when I was going through my childhood, you know, I've been to church. I've never was a full member of really what was the church going on. I mainly went for donuts and girls, okay? Ended up having a girlfriend at one church, ended up attending there a few times. And another place when we was kids, you know, because of our hunger, we ended up going to churches for donuts to eat and stuff in the morning time, so we thought that was pretty cool. But back to where I was at. I had to throw that in there. Back to where I was at the end of my rope, okay? And this is the greatest part of my story. All the other stuff is just, I want you to hear how powerful that there's forces out there, the evil, and how we have an opportunity to choose, you know, from one direction to the next, because I know you're a younger generation. And when you start choosing these directions, Satan's trying to pull you and lure you to certain things. And believe me, at first it's all good. It really is. It feels like it's all good. But there's a plan in mind. He's got a plan for you, you know, and it's not good on the other end. Okay? I've been on the other end of it. I was to the point to where I didn't care if I lived or died. The existence of my life was no more. My kids wasn't around me. I was homeless. I had a backpack on my back, you know, and this is where I was at, you know. And so ended up going to a small town in Salem, Kentucky, and a buddy of mine was there. Me and him had you know, done drugs for a while, was hanging out, and his aunt invited him to church one time, and so I said, well, I looked at him and said, hey man, I said, let's just go. I said, we've been doing all this evil. I said, let's just go and see what it's about. And absolutely the most amazing thing happened to me that day. The most precious thing that I can ever hang on to. See, when I walked in, I was broken from the world. I was a junkie. When I walked out, I was a child of God. He changed my life forever. I have never been the same. I'm not talking about a gospel that whenever you go and you confess or whatever you do and nothing happens, there's no fruit. I'm talking about a gospel that's so powerful. He didn't hang on the cross for just whatever. He hung on the cross to change people's lives forever. It is an eternity thing, let me tell you, because, see, when I walked out of that church that day, when I walked out of that church that day, I went back and did methamphetamines one more time. I've been through 4 rehabs and 3 mental institutions to try to kick the habit, to get away from it, and try to figure out what life was about. One time at the altar changed my life forever. I'm not the same. There's something different about me. And so I went and did methamphetamines one more time, and I looked at my buddy. I said, man, I don't want this. Ezekiel 36 took place in my life. Have you ever read Ezekiel 36? And what happened was, God says, I will take out that heart of stone, and I will put in that heart of flesh for you. I said, for me? Do you know who I am, God? Do you know what type of person I am? He said, I hung on the cross for everyone, even you. So when my life changed, I ended up going back to Paducah. I got around some friends of mine. When I got around them, they knew something was different. They said, what's wrong? What happened to you? I said, man, I don't know. I didn't understand your salvation thing. I didn't understand what had took place. But I know that that day when I was in that church, I wanted something more than what I've ever been shown. And I surrendered my life to Christ right there on that altar. And when I surrendered and I put my faith and trust in everything that I had, my life was totally different. I walked out of there on March 1st. And now let me tell you, from the age of 10 all the way to the age of 32, I was in and out of drugs. I was doing everything. And this isn't an AA meeting or NA meeting because, you know, there's a difference between NA and AA. Let me tell you what the difference is. See, I'm not a recovering addict. I've been delivered. That's the difference. I don't desire to do those things no more. I don't want to be around them anymore. You know, so that's what's made the difference in my life. Okay? So whenever you look and perceive what Jesus is, it's not just about certain things, it's about life-changing events that happens for you. Because let me tell you, you keep grasping this world and you keep doing things in this world and you keep doing this and you keep doing that, there's going to be that time when you face that reality, say, I need something greater than what I've got. And He is greater. I guarantee you, He is greater, the most greatest thing that you'll ever grab a hold to. And all you got to do is put your faith. There's no works. Believe me, I never worked for no salvation. I know people say that you work for. I don't believe in losing salvation. I do believe in a life-changing process when you are saved. I do believe that when God breaks into your life, that you'll never be the same. The book tells me. You know, in Hebrews 12, it talks about how He disciplines His children. You know, I went into a Marshall County Detention Center after God had changed my life. Okay, March 1st, 2006, March 5th, or February 5th, 2006, when God saved me. March 1st, 2006 is the last time I touched any drugs or alcohol from there on out, because God delivered me completely away from them. Okay, so whenever I go into this jail, and I like telling the story because it was my first conviction from God. God was working with me and I couldn't understand what was going on. It was so, now I know how amazing it is when God disciplines His children, because His correction means that He wants you to be a better person. He wants you to be more like Him. And so there was a snack machine that was in there, and there's some change fell out. Of course, in jail, you know, you're not really going to get too much money in there. And so there's a little change that fell out. So I grabbed that money, I put it in the snack machine, you know, and I thought, man, this is great. It wasn't my money. I stole cars. I've broken houses. I've even broken churches. Okay? I stole a little bit of change out of a snack machine, and God convicted me. The conviction. Hebrews 12 come into play in my life. What is this? Do you know I couldn't even hardly sleep until I made it right with the people that I stole that money from? I went back to them. It took me a couple of months, and I said, God, put me back into the people that I stole from. And I walked up to them with the money. I said, I apologize for doing this. It was a conviction that came in place. That's the reality. That's salvation. That's what happens to people when God changes lives. You know, if you're sitting there today and you're asking yourself, says, well, I just don't know if I'm saved. I don't know that I've got true salvation. It's only between you and God. I don't know if you're saved. You don't know if I'm saved, you know. But I guarantee you this. If you're truly saved, God will convict you of the wrongs that you do. It's like when I've lied before. I had to go back and apologize. Not too long ago, I was at work and I was showing my pride. My pride stepped in. God convicted me of it. I had to go apologize to the people I was showing my pride to, because it wasn't about me. It's all about Him. What I ask you today is if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, let today be your day of salvation. Today is the day. You know, because we don't know that we've got tomorrow. We don't know if we got the next day. We don't know if we got the next minute. You hear a lot of people say that, you know, and we don't know. I've got friends that's passing away. I mean, it's just left and right because of the world I've been in. So, you know, it's been a great privilege for y'all to allow me to get up here and speak. I don't know how much time I had, but good. All right. I want to thank y'all for allowing me to speak. It's always a great opportunity to get up here and talk about what Jesus has done for me in my life. And the only thing I want you to take from this is not anything of who Burt was. I want you to take from this about how great God is. And when you get up here and you worship the King, man, worship Him. Because He did it. When He nailed Himself on the cross, when you focus on the cross and what He did, it was such an unselfish act. Because you see, we spit and we mock. The Bible says that we reject God. All of us reject God. That whenever in that rejection, He laid Himself on the cross for people like us. He did it for us. He didn't have to. God's going to be God no matter what. He didn't have to sacrifice anything or anything, but He chose to. And He chose to because He loves you. And He loves me. And the reason I know He loves me, because He changed me. And He can change you too. Thank you.